If I lost my entire cellar tomorrow and had to start again from scratch, I wouldn't buy First Growth Bordeaux, Cru Burgundy, or culled wines. I would start with a 100 bottle wine cellar and a budget of $5,000. That's it. After decades of collecting, making mistakes, and discovering which wines generally reward both drinking and aging, this is a framework I would use if I were starting again today. In this video, I will show you exactly how I would allocate that $5,000 budget, the types of wines I would prioritize, and the bottles I still buy after decades of collecting. My approach to building a wine cellar is built around 4 different buckets, each serving a different purpose at the table and over time. And one final thought before we begin. While you are still discovering your preferences, buy 3 or 6 bottles rather than a full case of 12 bottles. A cellar should evolve alongside your taste. First bucket, whites, 24 bottles at roughly $30 each for a budget of around $750. These are the wines you would reach for most often. Fresh, versatile, food-friendly bottles that deliver immediate pleasure while introducing you to different grape varieties and regions. 6 examples from my own cellar. Bourgogne, Aligoté, François Carillon. A cracking expression of Aligoté grape from one of my favorite estates in Côte de Beaune. Latest releases are around $30. Sancerre, Domaine Denisot. A juicy and voluptuous Sauvignon Blanc from a domain owned by a young couple, 6th-generation winemakers. Latest releases are around $25. Pfalz, Dr. Birkelin Wolf, Riesling Trocken. A powerful, richly textured, yet crisp and vibrant Riesling from one of Germany's largest, oldest estates. Latest releases are around $20. Ruero Arnais, Vietti, a bone-dry, medium-bodied white with crisp acidity from one of the benchmark producers in Piemonte. Latest releases are around $25. Tokai, Oremus, Mandelas Dry Ferment, one of the best dry ferment from a domain owned by the Alvarez family of Vega Sicilia fame. Latest releases are around $25. Elgin, Western Cape, Buchendown, Appellation Series, Elgin Chardonnay. A delightful South African Chardonnay with a signature saline minerality, a testament to its oceanic terroir. Latest releases are around $35. Second bucket, Approachable Reds. 30 bottles at roughly $25 each for a budget of around $750. These are your weekly wines, bottles you can open without overthinking. Generous, approachable reds that drink well young, while helping you discover which styles naturally appeal to you. 6 examples from my cellar. Terrasse du Larzac, Mas Lasta. From a young, talented winemaker, it's bold, lush, and crackling with vitality, yet impeccably controlled. Latest releases are around $20. Côte du Rhône, Coudelet de Beaucastel. A brilliant, charming, and finesse-driven Côte du Rhône from the Perrin family of Beaucastel fame. Latest releases are around $30. Moulin à Vent, Domaine La Bruyère, Cœur de Terroir. An aromatic, silky, and complex expression of Gamay from one of the best terroirs in Beaujolais. Latest releases are around $20. Stellenbosch, Raffordale Syrah. A nuanced, restrained expression of Syrah that captures a Northern Rhone elegance on South Africa soils. Latest releases are around $25. Toscana, Vino Nobile di Montepulciano, Salchetto. A delightful interpretation of Sangiovese that offers a beautiful balance of bright red fruits and savory earthiness. Latest releases are around $25. Ribera del Duero, Bodegas La Hora Corimbo, foot-forward, plush, juicy with good whip. It's an assertive yet not overdone Ribera del Duero. Latest releases are around $30. Third bucket, aged reds. 18 bottles at roughly $50 each for a budget of around $900. This is where the real magic of cellaring begins. These are wines with a structure to improve over many years, sometimes decades. Mature bottles I regularly taste reveal a depth and complexity that simply can't be rushed. 6 examples from my cellar. Chinon, La Croix-Boissée, Bernard Baudry. One of Chinon's finest Cabernet Franc. It captivates with a seamless interplay of concentration and freshness. The 2018 vintage is around $45. Au Médoc, Château La Lagune. Elegant and concentrated, this is a formidable third growth, troisième cru classé, that offers far more than its price suggests. The 2019 vintage is around $50. Au Médoc, Château Cantemerle, a fifth growth, cinquième cru classé, that has made tremendous strides in recent vintages. The 2015 vintage is around $45. Saint-Julien, Cru du Marquis. With real depth and structure, it's genuinely enjoyable and can comfortably stand alongside many left bank Grand Crus classes. The 2020 vintage is around $65. Saint-Estèphe, Château Lafont Rocher. Recent vintages have shifted this fourth growth, quatrième cru classé, into a much more elegant, fresh, and polished style. The 2020 vintage is around $50. Mornington Peninsula, the Moradec McIntyre Pinot Noir, Moradec Estate. Assertive, yet effortlessly elegant and quietly complex, it's one of the finest Pinot Noir from Australia. The 2020 vintage is around $50. Fourth bucket, Future Icons. 24 bottles at roughly $110 each for a budget of around $2,600. These are the bottles that create memories. Not necessarily the most expensive wines available, but wines with the pedigree, character, and aging potential to reward patience and make an occasion feel special. 6 examples from my cellar. Pauillac, Château Ponticane, a magnificent fifth growth, cinquième cru classé, that stands shoulder to shoulder with the best in its appellation on recent vintages. The 2020 vintage is around $130. Nuit Saint-Georges, Premier Cru Les Pruniers, Henri Gouges, a superb Premier Cru from one of the benchmark producers of Nuit Saint-Georges. 2016 vintage is around $100. Beaune, Premier Cru, Claude et Mouche, Joseph Drouin, the iconic red from one of the Côte de Beaune's most respected producers. The 2019 vintage is around $115. Toro, Tempos, Vega Sicilia, Pintia, a remarkable reinterpretation of Toro Dio that displays intense power with stunning elegance and freshness. The 2020 vintage is around $105. And finally, 2 grower champagnes that, in my view, can comfortably compete with far more famous names. L'Air Frère, Les Vignes d'Autrefois, Blanc de Noir, Extra Brut. The 2019 vintage is around $110. Chavost, Eureka, Brut Nature. Recent releases are around $125. These are many of the wines that shaped my own cellar, and many of them remain there today. What I have learned over the years is that building a great cellar isn't about chasing the most expensive bottles. It's about creating a collection that gives you options. Something to drink tonight, something to open with friends next year, and something quietly waiting in the corner that may not reach its peak for another decade. That's why I would start with these 4 buckets. Together, they provide enjoyment, variety, and the opportunity to learn what you truly love before committing serious money to any one region or producer. This framework gives you something to drink now, something to hold for later, and something to dream about in between. For those interested in the numbers, this cellar comes to a little under $5,000 with an average bottle price of around $52. And for those of you who were paying attention, you will have noticed that there are only 96 bottles, rather than 100. Those final 4 bottles are yours. Spend them on wines that make you curious, regions you want to explore, or bottles that simply make you smile. After all, the best cellar isn't somebody else's cellar. It's your own. In future videos, I will explore many of these wines in greater detail, along with a few other bottles that very nearly made the list. If you were building a 100-bottle wine cellar today, which regions would you prioritize? And what would you do with those final 4 bottles? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. You will find more of my cellar insights and tasting notes over on Instagram. Massive thanks for watching today, and I will see you in the next one.